Hey all, Glenn Kirschner here. Please enjoy this video on the Political Voices Network.
You know, we were just saying, tell you everything you need to know about the Supreme Court. That your stomach clenches the day, that we may hear, things probably you've never even imagined legally. So here we are. We're waiting do you think the immunity ruling, you said, in the event you thought 6 extreme right-wing members of the Supreme Court were all that extreme, they just ruled that something that fires exactly like a machine gun is not a machine gun. Mm-hmm. So there's that ruling, and I don't know if you think we're going to get immunity today and what it's going to be, but what are your thoughts?
No, I mean, what's the hurry? Why should we see the Supreme
right?
Court opinion today? I mean, they have, another week or so. So, I do think we'll get the opinion probably right at the end of the term, June 30th. And it, unfortunately, will involve more hearings, in my opinion, that they direct Judge Chutkan to engage in and then return the case to the Supreme Court for further proceedings.
Right.
So I think the hope is dwindling that we're going to see a federal trial before the election. And, look, the Supreme Court, that block of justices have shown themselves to be compromised, and they ignore the federal law that says when their impartiality is in question, they must disqualify themselves. So they are in violation of the federal law. It reminds me of, Jim Jordan, who remains in noncompliance with a congressional subpoena. But when you don't go after these folks, Steph, this is exactly what you should expect.
I just never thought in my lifetime it would be so obvious, as everybody says, that they are basically granting Trump the immunity that he's asking for with this delay. The same thing, Judge Cannon is doing, which is a whole nother. By the way, Lawrence Tribe tweeted this statement made on tape that we just played of Donald Trump admitting he lost the election. By Mr. Trump would be admissible in evidence against him on the issue of corrupt attempt in the four Smith indictments in D.C. that SCOTUS is inexcusably keeping on hold. I mean, once again, you think even all of this stuff we have on tape from Georgia to everywhere, the documents case, as you always said, really slam dunk. If we could just get it to trial, which it should already have been tried and settled by now.
Right. And the good news, a little bit of silver lining behind the big orange dark cloud, is that once Donald Trump loses the election, all of these cases will go to trial, and he will lose the election. Yeah. The cases will go to trial. And just as Professor Tribe said, and as I've been saying for a couple of years now, the minute the cases go from the court of public opinion into a court of law, Donald Trump is done. He was convicted in a New York minute. That jury needed no time to convict him of 34 felony counts. Why? Because the evidence is overwhelming, and the rules of evidence, the rules of law, and the rules of procedure apply in a courtroom, and they don't apply in the court of public opinion. So Donald Trump will be convicted in the D.C. federal case. He will be convicted in the Georgia case, and he will be convicted if it ever gets to trial in the Florida case on the illegal documents, obstruction of justice, and espionage charges. It's just a matter of getting him into the courtrooms, and we will.
So let's talk Judge Cannon. So today, I always try to look for the silver linings, as you do. The hearing scheduled for today to consider disqualifying Jack Smith could, according to one prosecutor, could backfire and lead to her being booted. I still have a dream about that. If Cannon rules against him, legal scholars say he might have the ammunition he needs to finally request the judge's recusal from the case. On what grounds should he be disqualified? What are they even arguing legally?
No, there are no grounds. They're arguing. She brought a bunch of conservative operatives in to make arguments to her. That's typically not how criminal litigation works. Take it from somebody who, litigated cases for 30 years. But she invited these people in. They're all going to make their pitch on behalf of Donald Trump. They are basically saying, well, we understand that special counsel and independent counsel procedures are lawful. Indeed, we've been using them in America since the 1800s, including most recently against Trump when Bob Mueller was appointed special counsel. They said, but, you really should have drawn somebody from inside the Department of Justice, not outside the Department of Justice. And Jack Smith left DOJ to do what? To prosecute war criminals. Mm-hmm. But guess what? Bob Mueller was not a U.S. attorney at the time either. So, this whole thing is pure farce and theater. But Steph, I hope to hell she grants the motion to dismiss, because Jack Smith will appeal so fast it'll make her head spin. And I believe it will then be time for him to throw in a motion to disqualify her. Right. And it's one that the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals may very well side with Jack Smith on.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Ruth Marcus wrote, this is the kind of Hail Mary motion that should have been dispatched quickly after Trump's lawyers filed it in February, but that's not the canon way. I mean, it's just, there's one just completely bewildering thing after another. And I was saying, you know, Glenn, I guess it's going to be a question of, is she going to try to kill this by 1,000 cuts? Or, you know, but I keep hoping, as you do, that she is going to overstep at some point. I mean, what's the other reporting we heard? The New York Times reported that the U.S. District Judge for the Southern District of Florida, Eileen Cannon, was asked by 2 senior federal judges to recuse herself from Trump's classified documents case, but she refused. The judges who approached her, including the chief judge in the Southern District, each asked her to consider whether it would be better if she were to decline the high-profile case, allowing it to go to another judge. But Judge Cannon, who was appointed by Trump, wanted to keep the case and refused the judges' entreaties. So here we go. I mean,
this is really important, Steph, because the federal law, as we've discussed, says when a justice, Supreme Court justice, federal court judge, or federal magistrate court judge, when their impartiality might reasonably be questioned, the law requires them to disqualify themselves from the case. Now, what do we have in the reporting? 2 of her colleagues, including her own chief judge, Judge Altanaga, told her, you know what, we're reasonably questioning the appearance of your impartiality and you shouldn't accept the case. And there's a 3rd judge who went on record with NPR, 27-year judge, now retired from federal court in New York, Judge Shira Scheindlin, who I urge everybody to look at her NPR interview. She said, in her opinion and in her experience, Judge Cannon is showing, quote, favoritism to the defense, to Donald Trump, and antagonism to the prosecutors. That's a pretty searing indictment. And the body of evidence for disqualification, I believe, is growing by the day. So we may just get there. Yeah,
well, and obviously then what's the next thing? Thursday, Trump's lawyers will appear before Cannon to make a sweeping request to have the judge toss out a wide swath of evidence. This would be Evan Corcoran's notes, right, which were ruled admissible because of the crime fraud exception. The Trump team will ask the Cannon to revoke prosecutors' access to those memos made by his ex-lawyer. I mean, who knows what's going to happen today, but if we get to that, go ahead. Just to say,
it's like frivolous motions are us. That's what Donald Trump's team is all about. And you know why? And again, this is what Judge Scheindlin observed. Judge Cannon will take every motion and like a beaver, she will build a dam, and she will stop everything from running downstream and progressing. So the more frivolous motions Donald Trump's lawyers file, the stronger that dam becomes, and nothing can pass. And she's making sure of that. So as you say, not only death by 1,000 cuts, but it's death by 1,000 continuances, because she will not let the case progress.
Oh, Beaver Stack meets my legal lad. It's like a dream come true for me. Oh, I love it. Who doesn't love a good Beaver reference in Pride Month? Hey, Glenn.
Hey all, Glenn Kirschner here. I hope you'll join me on my new audio podcast, Justice Matters. I'll be using my 30 years as a federal prosecutor and Army JAG to unpack, break down, and explain the legal issues of the day, particularly where the legal intersects with the political. Please look for Justice Matters with Glenn Kirschner wherever you generally get your podcasts.